Larry says, thoughts on AWS outage. Many are asking if this incident will lead the government to make Amazon divest from Amazon and do and of its cloud market share. But I simply don't see it happening. Now, I don't. So number one, what he's talking about is this actually impacted me directly. Like I use a couple services that to help me to do these videos. Like one is restream.io. It just didn't work. And then another one is a couple a couple editors I use didn't just stop working. And I was like, what the hell's going on? You know, I clicked it, get out of it, go to another browser. And I'm like, what's happening here? Is it me? Is my network working? And then come to find out there's a gigantic outage that affected Netflix and affected all these other organizations because they all use AWS cloud, not Google cloud, not Azure cloud, Google cloud. I mean, Amazon AWS cloud. That's how impactful and powerful AWS is. AWS is, I had no idea how deep it went. But to answer your question, Larry, no, they're not going anywhere. And the reason why is because there's nowhere else to go. AWS is too big to fail. And I'm not saying that to be facetious or anything. And that's literally, there's no other place for them to go. This is something that could have happened with any cloud because there was some kind of mistake. From my understanding, what happened, it was an error in their domain name system. And there are two different applications that were updating a domain. So imagine like a server that has one file, and that file tells the every system where to go. That's a DNS. So they had two different applications that were rewriting that file, and it came up to where this file is blank. And so the other organizations were trying to figure out where to go, like going to a phone book, and then the phone book is blank. And so they would come into the AWS public cloud to figure out where to go. Okay, where's my data? And that phone book is blank, and it's like turning the page. AWS quickly figured it out, like within hours. They fixed it. But then there was another problem. The queue of all of the requests from all over the world, from millions and millions of different requests, are queued up. And so it still worked, but they had to go through that entire queue one by one. And that's why the outage stretched on for like another, few hours. I think it would last for like 14 hours or something. So the real outage, the thing that they fixed, like they probably fixed that within a couple hours, but then they had this gigantic queue that had to keep getting served, and that it is so many transactions that it took like another 14 hours to get all those through. So that's kind of what happened. Is Netflix now going to divest from AWS? No, no. I think this is something this is one of those things that could have happened at Azure. It could have happened at any kind of organization that gets large enough is going to have problems like this. Networking. If you're a networking person, you're familiar with gigantic outages like this. It happens from time to time. It's just the nature of the beast. It's just the more complex and large something is, these things do happen. But the great thing about it is that they're now figuring out, okay, now we know how to fix this to where this doesn't happen again. And that said, something else will happen undoubtedly in the future. I mean, think about Google. Google's gone down a couple times, and they've had to learn these kinds of lessons. But it's led to things like them creating things like Borg. If you've ever heard of that, Borg, I'm sure most people never heard of it, but they had something in the back end that they used to help developers quickly spin things up. Borg became something called Kubernetes, the open source version of Borg that was previously used inside of Google. And that's from Google learning how to go fast with developers. allowing developers to use containers very quickly, and that became, Kubernetes. Correct me if I'm wrong, internet historians, but so yeah, it's just them learning stuff. I don't think that they're gonna divest from it. If anything, maybe they'll be like, okay, maybe we can expand and we'll make another version of it. We'll have another offsite. We'll keep everything we have in AWS regions and in Azure. I mean, in availability zones, but we're gonna also have one on Google's cloud or something, to where if this one goes down, we can bounce it over there. Somebody said AWS outage primarily affected customers that did not have redundancy configured settings in place. Yeah, and that's another thing, is that it impacted a certain region on AWS. Like, I think it was East, right? Like, AWS is all over the world, and they design it in such a way that you don't have to be in one region. You can be in the western part of the US and the eastern part of the US. So that if this part goes down, you automatically switch over to that other side. So, and then he says, government has their own region with their own support teams. Yeah, and that's another thing. Government has what's called Gov Cloud. So they have their own private cloud where it's not really impacted directly by what other people are going through. They already have their own redundancies built in, so they'll, yeah, I don't see them moving on to anything else.